Hickok 45 here. Welcome to the Hickok 45 Talks channel. I'm enjoying sitting on the swing and talking to you today. You might see several Talks videos from right here while I have my coffee. I've been putting this off. I've been negligent, on my talks. I don't want to do too many of them. I don't want to share too much genius with you. It's more fun just being one of the few geniuses around. If I spread my genius with everybody would be a genius, and I'll just be one of the crowd. So I try not to do too many of these. One thing, I've been talking about some frivolous things and mundane things, but one thing that I have noticed, I don't think I've talked about this, one thing I've noticed in recent years, maybe months, years, are these videos that pop up, shorts or short videos or just short videos, Instagram or wherever, YouTube, I don't know, about people talking about how they've decided working for a living just isn't worth it, and then retiring for 10 years or 5 years and, living their whole life so that they can save for retirement and then just, die when they're 70 or 65, whatever it is, and have 1 year they know, might name people they know, they worked 40 years of their life and after they're saving for retirement, and then trying to create a life for themselves, and then they died or got sick, and they wasted all that time. It was kind of another variation on the "you only live once" sort of thing. And got to live now, and working for the man or working crappy job to save, and then you don't have time to enjoy it, and how ridiculous our system is and life is, and retirement programs don't allow for this or that, or just the whole 9 yards of society, how ridiculous it is. We slave for all these decades and trying to get ahead, and then by the time we can actually have some free time, we don't have our health, or we don't have still enough money, whatever. You've seen there's a lot, and it can be a real thing. There are people that they just really make very little money, and they work crazy hours, they end up being in bad health. They finally retire, and they don't live long, or they still don't have any money to travel or do anything, that sort of thing. But I don't know, I think it's a little overdone. I don't want to sound or be callous on that. There are a lot of people, my gosh, that just have unfortunate lives for whatever reason. Boy, there's just no doubt about that. No doubt about that. But I've had some crappy jobs. Really, in the hot sun, building foundations in the summer, and all kinds of construction work like that, and painting in the sun. I've just had a lot of stuff. Working in the fields and tobacco. I am no stranger to really hard work and hot work, uncomfortable work, that kind of thing. So I can relate to anybody that has a tough job. But I've been fortunate in much of my career to have more enjoyable jobs. I enjoy teaching. I enjoy doing this and things. But I don't quite see it's not a universal thing, I guess is what I'm saying. A lot of people, probably the majority maybe, have to work hard. Nobody has as much money as they'd like to make, of course. And they, unless you're born independently wealthy or something, you're going to work, do something till you're in your 60s probably, right? It's just the way of life. It's a way of life. Wow, let's go back a few hundred years. There's some really meager lives. You work your fingers to the bone just to eat every day, and then die of some horrible disease or what. You know, we really have it better than I think some of those videos portray it. To take more of a Pollyannish view, maybe. Hey, how about being glad you've got a job and you get to eat today, and you have a roof over you. You're not sleeping outdoors in the icy storms or something. There's a lot of ways to look at things. I don't know. There's just a lot of dissatisfied people. I understand that the economy is just a tough time, but I think it's a little exaggerated. None of us is owed a living. The government doesn't owe us anything. Nobody owes us anything. We're in a system like would be in any country where you carve out the best life you can. Maybe you're lucky, maybe you're not. Maybe you have the intellectual capability to I don't know, have a job that is not backbreaking, and you're able to accumulate a little bit of wealth, or maybe you're not. The only option for some people is just working with their muscles, and as long as they can, and that may not be ideal, but I don't know. It just seems awfully pessimistic. For one thing, as I've talked about before, a lot of these folks seem to think that life is over when you're 60 or 65. There's nothing left. You work your life away, and you're struggling for retirement, and you're finally there, and you're going to die or whatever. It's just a lot of pessimism. I have several friends who been retired 10, 15 years, and we go do stuff. I'm doing stuff every day, and and if you have planned, some of it comes from just real tough life situations, no doubt about it. But then a lot of it still, imagine that, comes from people who just are extremely poor planners and don't look out into the future and think about what it's going to be like when they quit working or have to quit working. It's awfully easy to spend every penny we make and then just complain about how we don't make enough money to save anything and all that, and the world's against us, and it's a terrible world, and it's the boomers' fault, or the Gen X's fault, or the millennials' fault, or it's somebody's fault. It's real easy to have that attitude as a thing. My only advice would be when people who really feel like life is a heavy burden on them, and it's not going to get any better, and they're not going to be able to retire, whatever, ever. Somehow, and I wasn't good about this early on, for sure, so I understand it, but if we could just get in our heads and drum into our kids that whatever you're doing in life, whatever compensation, whatever money you're making for whatever it is you're doing, just look at it. Of course, you have to look at it as if only 80 or 90% of it's yours anyway, because it belongs to Uncle Sam, right, that part. But after taxes, that you really, whatever you're making, you're just making 90% of that or 85% of that, whatever the ideal percentage would be for you to save. But and it's for a rainy day, it's for later in life or whatever, that you don't really make that. Let's say after taxes you make, I don't know, pick a number, you make $5,000 a month or $1,000 a month or whatever it is, for easy now, whatever the period of time is, over 2 weeks or a week, whatever, you make $1,000. Let's say after taxes you have $1,000 for that paycheck, whenever it comes, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever. You have $1,000 after taxes. You got to, it doesn't matter what your expenses are. I mean, it's just the life. I taught school for 29 years. I know about budgets. We just have to impress upon young people and everybody that you don't have $1,000 even after taxes. You don't have 1,000. You've got to live on 800, ideally 900 maybe. I don't know. But you got to live on less than that, and you got to put that away. All right. Obviously for an emergency fund and all that kind of thing, but for later, for when you can't work, whenever that is, or when you don't want to work, whenever that is. For fun, you're going to need to be financially independent at some point. It might be 5 years from now. It might be 50. You don't know what's going to happen. You could be in a car wreck. You could have or something where you can't make any more money. But you're going to need to be financially independent at some point in your life. And if you kind of work for it, you'll get there. No matter what you make, if you can live on less than you make, under your expenses, and not exceed that. It's just that simple. I might like living in this specific apartment I'm in. I don't want to have to move, but I'm not able to save anything. I hate to say it, but you probably need to move. You need to somehow get your living expenses down to where you can save that money. It's essential. It's not a nice thing to do. It's an essential thing to do. And you'll sleep better at night. And your future will look better. Even if you're living in a crappier apartment than you live in now, just knowing you have some money in the bank for emergency funds, you have a retirement growing, compounding. You can put up with some inconvenience, I think, knowing that. Boy, you sleep better at night. Anyway, I don't know. I sound like I'm the expert on all this, but I just see a lot of complaining about the way life goes and how I have to work all my life and then retire and I'll probably be alive for 5 years and I still won't have any money. All that sort of griping, which again may be kind of true for some people, but it doesn't have to be if you can live below your means. That's really what it is. Live within your means, live below your expenses. That's really what it comes down to. And not enough is taught about that in school. I've said this many times. Math teachers, that'd be a good place to do it. In math class, at the beginning of every single year, starting about the second grade, take a day or two before you start all the curriculum stuff. Make this part of the curriculum. And you start talking. You show on the board what if you just saved, talk at third graders even, if you save $2 a week, here's what it would be at 7% or 8% or 10%, whatever percent you want to throw in there, when you're 20, when you're 30, when you're 50, if you keep saving that, and then you increase it a little bit, each year, and even at a minimal amount is not even going to sound like that would be her. Oh yeah, I could do that. If I'm making any money, I could save that much. And look at what it does compounding wise when you're 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. And show what I would do if I was responsible for that. Everybody likes to think, $1 million is the ultimate. Oh man, if I had $1 million, I could make $1 million. If I had $1 million saved, whatever, I could retire or whatever. Well, the numbers are simple. I could pull out my phone now and a calculator and a retirement calculator and give you the numbers. It's simple to figure that number. And by the time you retire, it might need to be $2 million, whatever it is, but you can put it in there. Okay, here's how much you need to save by the time you're 20 and leave alone. That would be $1 million when you're 40 or when you're 60, whatever it is. You can it's just math. And you can be conservative on the percentage increase. Assuming it's invested in the market. So that's what needs to be taught. That's what needs to be taught. And then this woe is me attitude maybe could be converted for some people into, woe is me, there's a crappy job, I need to get a better job, or I'm living, my expenses are too much now, I need to move to a different side of town, or I need to be driving a different car. Well, you could put math to that, because you know how much you're saving and every month, and what that will be when you're 40 or when you're 60. What it will, and it'll be close to that. This is not like a guess, kind of a guess, but based on history, like markets, generally 7 to 10% a year. You just throw in a conservative percentage there. But we need to do that for kids. We're really negligent in not doing that. Every freaking year in math class while they're fresh, and just show them. And maybe have some kids I don't know, start putting that aside, or you could, if it's done every year, when a kid is a freshman in high school or a senior, or whatever, you could just then you could draw on them. They were in a school system, whatever the county is. That's just something you start in second grade, third grade, and the parents are kind of involved, and they help them make sure they do put away 50 cents a week or $3 a week or a month, whatever it is, and actually invest it and put it in a parent's account or something where you can try to track it, keep it separate, and then say, oh yeah, that $500 that I was able to put away, my parents helped me when I was in the third grade or something, and they get to be in high school. You could look at that and share with the class and do reports on it. And I got up to 500 in there, and then I went to 6 later, whatever, and I have 10,000 now or something, or whatever, in that period of time, and talk about what it would be at the same growth rate when I'm out of college and when I'm 40 years old and 50, and just track it and be aware of it. I think that would be a great thing. Some of you might be doing that. Is anybody had any of that going on in school? Boy, I wish it had gone on with me. I hadn't been so dumb about all that, until I was like 40 or something. So, I'm still dumb, but there are certain little areas I've gotten smart in. And it's kind of what we all do, isn't it? All those are ignorant in a lot of ways in so many areas. But then we have, a handful of things that we kind of study more and we learn a little bit more about, and that's kind of where I am. Mostly dumb, semi-smart in just a couple of things. Best I can hope for. I'm sorry. Hope you can too. So anyway, that's my 2 cents worth. I have seen so much talk about that, and people going to the effort of making videos and shorts and lamenting how terrible the world is, and society or capitalism and all that, As I've said before, and I misquote it sometimes, that line about how capitalism is the worst economic system on earth, except for all the others, And I think that's based on some other quotation from Winston Churchill or something, but that wasn't even about economics, but it is so true, and it embodies a concept too that I think that is so true. I've talked about that before. How it's so easy for something to seem bad because everything has negative sides to it, right? People, just everything, every system, every school, every job, every company you've ever worked for. There's a lot of negatives with every single thing, and you can really dwell on that. And I've talked about that, how some people leave companies when they really shouldn't. It's not that bad. They get to the next company, it's just worse, or it's the same, because it's run by people. Kind of the way the world works. Somebody pulling in. No, it sounded like somebody stopped out there. Anyway, I'm done talking. I'm done sharing my brilliance. So life is good.